all of this madness going on, the commission, the Atlantic States Marine Fisheries Commission, decided to initiate an amendment, Amendment 7 to striped bass. An amendment is a much longer process than an addendum. An addendum, couple of meetings, 6 months, you're done. An amendment, minimum of 2 years.
Wow.
And they are going to do a deep dive on every management aspect of striped bass. They're going to look at what you and I want out of the fishery. They're going to look at catch and release mortality. They're going to look at conservation equivalency. If they're going to allow states to do conservation equivalency, because it's been a huge issue for us. We despise it because, how can you ever have a slot limit? A lot of the people supported a slot limit because they like the sound of it. They didn't understand that the 2015s needed to spawn a few years. But how can you have a slot limit if you tell each state that they can make up their own rules?
Right.
If New Jersey decides to kill bigger fish, if Maryland decides to kill bigger fish, and every other state doesn't kill big fish, you're still killing big fish.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's not a slot limit. A certain county in Florida and kill a big snook. You can't kill a big snook. On the entire Atlantic coast, you cannot kill a redfish over 27 inches. And that's inside state waters, outside state, everything. That's a slot limit. When you allow, we're going to come up with our own pile of mess, and hopefully it works, right? So conservation equivalency to us is the equivalent of the devil. But there's basically nine things that they're going to cover, the commission's going to cover in this amendment, and they're going to produce a public information document. It's called a PID, and that PID will go out to, and the commission will also distribute it. And on top of public comment, writing, emailing, sending your stuff into the commission, there's also going to be state hearings. Based on the current way things are, it looks like those state hearings will probably be virtually, which I think is great. It's going to allow a lot more people to participate and give their public comment, because you're not going to have to drive to Annapolis at 5 o'clock on a Wednesday to be in the meeting to say something. You can sit right, just like we're all sitting in our homes right now, do your 1-minute speech. They check the box, you're good to go. But I think it's really crucial that when people get this, anyone listen to this, and you see it, if you don't think it's worth your time to fill it out and send your feedback, don't ever complain. If I ever catch you complaining online and you didn't send comments, I'll tear you up, because this is it. This is your chance, and this process. And if we don't overwhelmingly respond that we want striped bass in the water, that abundant fish populations would drive the economy, it is crucial. I can't imagine striped bass fishing being like this forever, and it could be. They could lower the bar, the standard at where they want that threshold for adult females to be in the system. They could lower that bar, and today could be the new normal for what striped bass fishing is. And they're a pretty iconic species, and I don't want it to see it be like that at all. I want it to go back to 2006, and I know it happens. We're living with it for a very long time, 10 years, I would guess.
So you said this is a 2-year process. Is that problematic in the time that's going to take to make this happen?
So that's a great question. Part of the Striped Bass Cooperative Management Act, the law that governs striped bass, says that when these management triggers are tripped and the fishery is deemed overfished and overfishing is occurring. So it's two separate things. Overfished, there's not enough females in the system. That number fell below the management threshold. Overfished. Overfishing is occurring. The rate at which we're killing them is not allowing them to resupply themselves. And we're doing both to striped bass right now. We're overfishing, and they're overfished and overfishing is occurring. So according to the law on the books, when these management triggers are tripped, you have 10 years to rebuild the stock. But it's not really 10 years. it's the shortest amount of time possible with a 10-year max. So they could say, we're going to rebuild them in 6 years, and we have some pretty harsh regulations coming down, right? Or you can stretch it out as far as you can. And we're more for that. The shorter, the better. Let's get them back up to speed, right? That's for everyone. So the big picture of all of this, the question that you asked, Brian, is there's still not a rebuilding plan on the table. So a year has already ticked by since this stock assessment, this benchmark stock assessment was accepted by the board. A year has come and gone. There is still not a plan for new regulations to get them to be rebuilt within 10 years. So then you add another 2 years to the amendment process. And then what happens? Is it now 7 years, or is it 10 years after the amendment? And we have asked people that we know within the commission, and they have basically said that there's so many things that could happen with the amendment that they're not worried about it right now.
It sounds like to me, it sounds like, you know, we're digging a hole, and let's make a plan to get out of the hole, but yet there's still people behind me digging the hole. Is that kind of like, it's what it sounds like to me, you know? It's kind of disheartening, you know. And how does fish mortality, because even if you do something where you say, okay, you know, these are the limits, these are the numbers, catch and release, mortality comes into play in all of that as well, correct? I mean, that's something they're going to look at, but how does that play?
So the study, okay, everything with recreational fishing effort and numbers is done through a statistical information program. So much like tonight is election night, and they're doing exit polls and getting, you know, how can you call a state if only 5% of the votes are in, right? It's kind of the same process. They make some phone calls, they do dockside intercepts. They used to have mail surveys, and they get a critical mass of people within each state to report their fishing. And then that goes in and shows our effort and translates into how many fish we caught coastwide in a year, things like that. So when they figure out, you know, how many trips were taken for striped bass, how many fish were caught on average by each angler, how many fish were released, how many fish were harvested, they take that release number and they just multiply a constant of 9%, 0.09.
Okay.
To the total number of fish that they estimate were caught. Multiply it by that, and that's what they consider release mortality. So that combines, you know, guys who were fishing with like single hook, barbless rigs in the middle of winter when you don't have to worry about water temp and the salinity's up and all of these things, and with the guys who were fishing with, you know, J hooks in August, right? So where the mortality is much higher, and that average is 9%.
Okay.
Right now at the Division of Marine Fisheries in Massachusetts, they are doing an extensive bit of research on catch and release mortality, and they're kind of right in the middle of it. But the studies that we're going off of right now, they caught the fish by different means, whether it was a circle hook, a J hook, artificial lure, whatever bait, and they put them in a net pen and they monitored them. They died, you know, that's catch and release mortality, but it's really not very natural to have a fish in a net pen just sitting there. Does that stress them out too? You know, there's lots of questions.
Right.
So what the scientists in Massachusetts are doing is they're putting the acoustical transmitters in their belly, and it sends out a little ping, and there's buoys all over the ocean that can register those pings, and they know when that fish swims by, it pings on that buoy. So they're accumulating massive amounts of data behind the reality of catch and release mortality for striped bass right now. So we're trying our best to improve the science on that. As an angler, you have to do everything that you can do if you intend to release that fish and you consider yourself a conservationist or a sportsman. You should probably limit it being out of the water to 10 seconds or less. You should probably never use a J hook if you're bait fishing. The science isn't, we've never really done science on trebles, right? We don't know if that's more lethal because there's no science that's been done on it. But if you're talking about the difference between one hook wound or 9, maybe damage to the eye, which I think we've all seen with trebles, damage to the gills if it swings around, make those choices as anglers to be as good a steward of the resources you can, because it all matters. We are the driving force behind striped bass mortality. And it's how each individual angler behaves that's going to dictate how healthy this stock is.
Wow, that's a powerful statement right there.
Yeah,
that kind of drives the point home. It's ultimately at the end of the day on us, as individuals and the choices we make. So, keep going, Joe. I'm sorry, I keep interrupting. I keep interrupting your.
That's basically everything I wanted to hear.
Your flow.
Even kind of pulled in, the rec anglers versus charters and stuff a little bit into that, because that was something I wanted to bring up.
Joey, I'll give the numbers on it.
Yeah.
And I think the listeners, predominantly your audience is in Maryland. I get it.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I understand where you're coming from because I live on the shore. I live in Maryland too. Okay, but we manage these things on a coast-wide basis, and here's some things that I'll throw some real numbers at. Okay, so Maryland fishes, because we're a nursery and we don't have, not anymore, we used to, but we don't have big fish year round. We fish on the juveniles, the fish that are mostly haven't spawned yet, that are still residents of the Chesapeake Bay. So, because it's really the only fish we have available. So, and that's, the commercial aspect of the fishery in Maryland, they're not allowed to kill a fish over 36 inches. I'm sure everyone's aware of that, but they cannot harvest and sell a fish over 36 inches in Maryland. Whereas if you look at a state like Massachusetts, which has a pretty robust commercial fishery, they cannot kill a fish under 36 inches. Okay, it's just the difference in the fishery, right? It's the difference in what kind of fish they're seeing. So based on that, Maryland commercial fishing kills 77% of the total number of striped bass killed coast-wide. Wow. Commercial. We're the only state that has like a 50-50 split. Like 50% of our quota goes to commercial, 50% goes to recreation. Other states, it's way skewed. And coast-wide, even with Maryland's numbers in there, it is a 90-10 split.
Wow.
We harvest the recreational sector and charter for hire guides. We're in the recreational sector too. The recreational sector harvests 90% of the fish. The commercial sector harvests 10. So I understand, again, I have empathy. Look, I'm out there too. I see it too. I see the pound nets. I see everything that goes on. But on a coast-wide scale, commercial fishermen are 10% responsible.
And
so you can't blame them.
Yeah, that's the takeaway
for this. This is on us. And so, here's numbers. The statistical program estimated at the peak of the striped bass population that there were 25 million trips taken for striped bass in 1 year, coast-wide. 25 million. So you think of all these fish in Florida, right? You think of snook, tarpon, bonefish, all these fish that people go and the coast of Florida, and oh my God, there has to be so many fishing trips. Striped bass are the number one pursued fish on the East Coast, including Florida. The number one trips taken for that fish. They said they're again, Maryland doesn't have the perspective. If I live in New Jersey, fully average guy who lives in Jersey, gets off work at 5 o'clock, I can pick my kids up and I can be standing on a beach because literally all of New Jersey is a public beach.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty much anywhere I want in New Jersey, striped bass. Their access, you can't find a square inch of water in Maryland that's not privately owned, right? I mean, we don't have that access. They do. And you think of the population centers of New York, Boston, that whole megaplex of population in that area, and a lot of them love to fish for striped bass. So it rides directly on our shoulders, and there's enough hate out there. There's no reason to be mad at commercial fishermen about the decline of striped bass. I can promise you that.
That's power.
Yeah, that's what I want to bring up after last week.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we were talking specifically last week about menhaden, and as a forage fish, and if there's a problem with the menhaden, if they're in decline because omega takes too many, then how does that impact the whole of it? But what I'm hearing is even with that, it really comes down to the recreational and charter for hire. That community is the primary responsibility.
Let me tell you something. I know the scientists. Well, I don't want to speak out of turn. We have had broad discussions with the scientists who wrote the paper, because there's a big narrative now that the reason why striped bass population is down is menhaden are down. It is factually incorrect.
Wow.
The reason why striped bass population is down is because we killed them.
Tony, can you say that one more time, because you got a little garbly there, and I think that was an important thing what you just said.
The reason why we're having problems with striped bass is because we killed them.
There you go.
Not because of menhaden. I hope that was that's going to be a smart aleck there. But look, we traded emails for a week with the scientist who wrote the paper. This is not the conclusion that he wanted to come out of this, and somebody saw it, grabbed it, ran with it. Okay, it's not the case. All right, what he's talking about is like virgin stocks.
Okay.
So if there was an unfished stock of striped bass and an unfished stock of menhaden, striped bass could be 20% higher than they are right now, right? But we fish for striped bass, right? Yeah. Striped bass are absolutely positively the most sensitive species to menhaden populations. 100%. 100%. That is true. But the menhaden population is not having an impact on striped bass because we killed them. Right? That's the problem.
Funny.
You can't get around that.
We're laughing. It's not funny. We're laughing at the fact it's just so plain.
It's the most ridiculous argument. And I'm so tempted just to open the policy curtain and just dump and tell everything I know, because it frustrates the heck out of me, but I'm not going to. But trust me when I tell you, it's fishing mortality. I have been fighting for menhaden longer than any person I know. Joey, you have known me since you were 16. I was fighting tooth and nail for menhaden back then, pretty much by ourselves with a couple of groups in Virginia. We've been screaming about this since day one. It is not. I would be the first one to get in line and say, this is the problem with striped bass. It is not the problem. The problem is we are killing too many of them, and the forces of darkness will use that ridiculous argument as an excuse to kill more striped bass and to kill more menhaden. So they'll turn it around and they'll say the holding capacity of the Chesapeake Bay isn't the same. There's not any menhaden anymore. We can kill striped bass. We can kill more striped bass. And I've heard it on the phone calls already. It's a terrible argument, and it's a terrible narrative to have been put out there. And the people who put it out there should be ashamed of themselves. Because they basically were stealing thunder of striped bass, trying to push an agenda on menhaden. And it's stuck, and it's a shame, because we have to save striped bass. So it doesn't matter one iota how many menhaden are in the water. if there aren't any striped bass to eat them.
To eat them. Where can you know, we opened up talking about, you know, trying to convert the science speak into layman's terms, and you know, you go to these different groups, and it seems like everybody's got an agenda. Everybody has some sort of a, you know, angle that they want to take. As a recreational angler, where can you go to get the facts without the bias?
So if you, you know, look, I'm gonna plug our website. If you go to saltwaterguidesassociation.org, John McMurray and I started this about 2 years ago. John and I have been friends for a very long time. He's a pretty famous captain in New York. He does charters for tuna fish in the summer. He's striped bass, you know, kind of broke himself in on striped bass during the heyday. Runs a 36 and a 31 contender, 2 skiffs for fishing for fishing for stripers near shore. And the guy's just consummate professional. We started this deal together and combined, you know, you're looking at like close to 50 years experience between the two of us with striped bass, menhaden, and things like that. So we wrote a Striped Bass 101 and a Striped Bass 101 Part 2 article. And you know, here's the basic problem, Brian. You know, most groups out there are funded to do something, and that's why they do it. Maybe that's why you're hearing a lot of talk from menhaden from groups that never cared about it before.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe they got funding,
right,
and they haven't been doing it for 20 years, and they're not really experts at it. So, you know, we don't do things because we're funded. We do things because that's what the resource needs. You know, at the time we were working on menhaden, we weren't funded for that. Nobody had given us direct money to say work on striped bass, but we're never going to stop working on them. You know, but so we're kind of resource driven and not project driven, like funding project driven.
Mm-hmm.
So that puts us in a whole different world than most. And because we're dependent on this stuff. Most of us are guides, and if there's no fish, people don't take trips.
That's
That
right.
25 million number that I quoted from 2006, the latest data that came out, there were only like 16 million trips. We've lost almost 10 million trips a year.
And
You
that's
don't think that affects the tackle stores and the guides and the rod makers and the lure makers? We've lost 10 million trips for striped bass because the population's not as abundant. The fringe people are like, I'll go play golf. I'll go play tennis. What do I care? I'll take my kids to the pool, right? They just like to go when stuff's nice, but they're a big driver in the economy, okay? They take a lot of guide trips. And when you see, you know, that reduction on that kind of a scale, it's pretty scary.
Yeah.
And, you know, that's our whole, I guess our whole mantra is abundance is what drives the economy, not a dead fish on a dock. And we kill plenty of fish, but it's not, our customers aren't mad if they don't get their limit. Our customers are in it for the experience. You know, they want to see the 40-inch fish rolling on bunker. They want to see the bald eagle picking something off. They want to see the dolphins. They want to see, you know, they want to see the life. They want us to kind of take them out of their 9-to-5 business day and kind of show them a good day. And a big part of that is catching a lot of fish, right? And releasing a lot of fish. That's what most of our, and yeah, they have, do they want to kill a tuna and bring it home? Absolutely. But it's more than that, right? That's not the measure of the day.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, we're resource driven. We want a healthy ecosystem. That's what's gonna keep us working and kind of living our dream. And you know, we're resource driven because of that. I mean, our motto is if you take care of the fish take care of you.
We
so
in the world of
better business through conservation.
in my
Right.
other professional hat leading bike tours, we talk about that a lot, which it's the experience. And when you sell the experience as a guide as opposed to the product, it makes for a different exchange of goods between the guide and the consumer on the other end. But you're absolutely right. If there's nothing to experience, then if
we're
it's
all kind of hurt.
We're all in a bad place. Wow. This has been a very interesting and enlightening conversation to Joey.
I hope I haven't depressed anyone. I mean, there's still hope, right? I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing.
No, I don't think it's a depressing
I couldn't
thing.
get up in the morning.
I think it's an awareness thing. That's really and it comes down to that.
Well, I think my goal with this is the more people we can educate, the better.
Mm-hmm.
We have a pretty big listener base.
Yeah.
So hopefully they're a little more educated on it.
And it seems to be getting bigger and bigger. Although tonight I'm gonna be honest with you guys. I've been watching the live stream over here, and it stopped and started several times. I just have a feeling that there's so much bandwidth being consumed by people monitoring other activities that are going on in the world right now tonight that we are up against it. But our audio recording is solid, so our audio podcast on this, and I hope everybody that we've had some people in and out of the live stream and glitchy this, glitchy that.
I will blast this everywhere.
But the audio is going to be rock solid. So I apologize.
Joey, did I miss any questions there, buddy?
No, I apologize because I asked for. I was like, 10, 15 minutes. I don't want to take your whole evening. That was all. I mean, that was way more than I wanted in a good way.
Well, if anybody has been depressed, why don't we do our this or that's? Joey?
Yeah, let's blast through that.
Let's blast through some this
9 o'clock. I got ties to fly for tomorrow.
It's a kind of a good way to take all of that seriousness and let's channel it into something a little bit less serious, says the guy with no front teeth. Okay.
Tony, he actually doesn't have. He's getting some dental work. He doesn't have some front teeth.
I am missing some front teeth.
It happens, Brian.
It's never. This is the best time probably in the history of the
dental
world
work?
or of my life to have dental work done. Is because I walk around in public wearing a mask, so nobody can see my ugly mug anyway.
It's because you're from North Carolina.
Savannah man, Joey.
Yeah, there you go.
I do a little voices every once in a while, and the little extra space in my teeth gives me a little bit of extra whistle in the talk. Anyway, so I'm going to throw something out. Tony, I'm going to toss it over to you first. It's a simple make a choice. Which direction we go. If you feel like you want to explain yourself, but no explanation is necessarily required. Unless your name is Joey, then you have to go into a deep dive on why you chose that, which Joey will be up second, and then I'm going to bring up with the actual right answer at the end, probably and hopefully agreeing with you, Tony. First item on this week's This or That, would you rather have a ketchup sandwich or a mustard sandwich? Ketchup. Joey?
I hate mustard.
You would go with ketchup?
Well, people rag on me for putting ketchup on my hot dogs. So I'm still going to eat ketchup.
Just a ketchup sandwich. Okay.
Yeah.
I would probably go with mustard because I like. You could do the spicy brown, like the Dijon.
Nope.
Or you could get something a little fancy.
Nope.
When I was a kid, I used to love nothing more than just a slice of American cheese, which is basically just yellow oil, on 2 pieces of white bread with mustard. Does that sound weird?
God. It's because your other option was that crappy North Carolina barbecue. you needed good Tennessee barbecue.
Hey,
Let me tell you.
You know what I had? I had tonight. I took my mom shopping down at the Food Line, and we had to go all the way down into Charles County because she wanted to go to the Food Line because she had found that they have canned Brunswick stew. And I said, okay, I got to get a can of this Brunswick stew. And doggone it, it was really good. I grew up eating that North Carolina barbecue and Brunswick stew and hush puppies and coleslaw. And okay, I'm going to give you another one here. This is a bonus one since we went off on this tangent. Tony, and I'm going to give you to it. Is coleslaw a condiment or a side?
No, it's a side for sure.
Side.
But you know what? It's not because it's a condiment too. Because we're Tennessee barbecue, like it's a sweet barbecue, not that vinegar, nasty. And I never ate a pulled pork sandwich in my life without coleslaw on it.
Well, you see, that makes it a condiment, though.
I know. That's what I'm saying. It's a little bit of both.
Yeah, I can't stand it when you go in and buy barbecue, and it's like, I want coleslaw on my sandwich, but they're like, well, that's a side, so you don't get those extra good crispy French fries to go with it because you chose. Yeah, it's a condiment. It's a condiment. It goes on the sandwich.
I did a pulled pork when I went down when I went out with that guide, North Carolina, and I brought the biggest thing of coleslaw.
Nice.
It's the only way to eat it.
Yeah. Okay, I'm sorry. I went way off. Okay, second item. I think you guys were ketchup and I was mustard on that one. And okay, have your angling efforts judged by every fish you catch, or have them judged by your spouse. That means that fish is telling you what you've done right and what you've wrong. Would you rather have a fish tell you that or your spouse tell you that? Tony's like, I'm not answering.
Woo!
That's a tough one.
I think I'd rather hear it from the fish, I'll be honest.
Joey.
I get so much crap. I'm gonna go with the fish. Good thing she's asleep right now, not listening to that one.
Can you imagine?
You set us up for bad.
Can you imagine that fish though? Every fish you catch is like, you don't know what you're doing, buddy.
Joey, get over to his house and burn the audio tape.
God, he's in my kitchen right now.
Okay, I will quickly move on to.
You didn't answer that.
I didn't answer. I said fish too. I'm not going to open up that can of worms. Never get angry or never get jealous.
Oh, I never get jealous. I get angry all the time.
There you go.
Yeah,
I'm pretty happy.
I'm usually not a jealous person.
What I stand for.
I'm not.
I don't get angry either.
You don't. I
I'm
don't.
pissed off, but I don't think that's angry.
Okay, I'm going to throw out an option on this one that, and I think we all should choose that either one of them. They're both bogus, because why would you need to be angry and why do you need to? I don't like being jealous. I don't ever want to be jealous. I love to see other people catch fish. Love it more than probably anything in the world. I just love.
You're talking about fishing, or just life in general? Because if you have my job, anger is an integral part of your day to day. There's really no wiggle room. But fishing's like that's. I don't know if I've ever been angry when I'm fishing. That's like that's my special time.
I think this one was probably a toss away. I probably should have dumped this one, Joe.
Real quick.
Yeah.
So this is an example. I'm on my kayak the other night in the creek, and did I tell you about the paddleboarder?
No.
I was legitimately almost angry. So I'm about 30, 40 feet off a rock wall, and clearly there's not much room between me and the rock wall. I'm on a point that I fish a lot, and I got all my fly line out.
Oh.
And this boarder, I think it's my friend Dennis, coming to say hi. This guy cuts between me, the rock wall, and runs over my fly line. No.
Was it Dennis? Oh.
Some jagaloon, and I was like, "Hey, buddy, you want me to like beat shit out of you or what?" Like he just goes by and waves.
Not that one penny.
I was hoping my hook would get stuck in his fin. And I would have yanked him right off the board. But that's about
brutal.
as angry as I got.
Well, did you give him a son of a biscuit?
No.
No. All right. I can see that would make you angry though, and that would make anybody
close.
angry. I think that would make anybody angry.
Well, you cut never mind.
Okay, last item. Would you rather ditch social media or ditch TV?
Social media.
Did we have this on the last?
So, yeah, I mean, I would. Vehicle for us to get, information out, folks. But I barely even watch TV anymore. I mean, if it wasn't the day I retire, I'm probably gonna have 8 friends on my social media, and it's all gonna be to look at pictures of their kids or fishing buddies. And anyone who posts anything else, I'll probably turn you off. So I'm kind of over social media if it's not work related.
I couldn't agree with you more, Joey.
Yeah, I got on mine just to. I'm on there for this. Well, not this one, but work.
Yeah.
If it's not a fish or someone like a close friend, I just basically I figure out how to do all the hiding stuff now.
Yeah.
So, but I don't watch much TV.
My Facebook feed, because I have to do it for work with all the stuff that I do, because it's basically what I do for people. So I'm in this horrible position where I got to actually try to understand all of it and how to leverage it.
It's your job.
But if you go to look at my personal Facebook feed, because I'm in the same camp as you, it's like I don't want to see it. So it's basically my entire Facebook feed at this point is just nothing but ads by companies.
Dude, my wife gets so pissed. You posted another fish picture, but you didn't post it with me and you together? That's what I get.
I swear, if you look at my...
Oh, is that really how she sounds, Joey? Huh? Yeah, somebody's getting in trouble.
She says she's joking, but
she doesn't listen. And if she did listen, she ain't listening.
Watch, I'm gonna change my profile picture to like me and a redfish tonight. You wait. I'm gonna yell at.
You look at my Instagram thing; it's nothing but fish after fish after fish after fish after fish. Like ridiculous.
She does sound like that.
So anyway, I would love to be able to ditch social media, but I don't think I could.
It's here forever.
I don't really watch a whole lot of TV. I watch a lot of streaming stuff, Netflix, and but actual TV. I don't watch sports anymore. The only reason I watch football is because I'm in a family kind of fantasy football thing, which I'm doing quite well in this year, which is the first time ever that's happened. And I think it's probably because I just set it on autopilot and let it go. But that's it. Hey, Tony, thank you so very much for joining us tonight. Really appreciate it. You brought a little smart to this corner of the internet over here.
Doesn't happen often, Brian.
Not in this
stars line tonight.
Not in this little corner between Joey and I. There's a lot of nonsense that is spewed from both of us. So it was good to have.
Yeah, thanks for
somebody.
It was way more than I expected.
Real
which was
knowledge.
Great.
And the best news was
I made that in the best way.
Yeah, the best news we got was redfish. We are in for hopefully what looks like a run of puppy drum over the next couple of years. So thank you for.
I think you'll
reinforcing that.
Maybe if I'm ever on here again, I'll tell you the story of how we saved speckled trout years ago in Maryland.
Well, let's do.
I hope that we still keep seeing a rise in those populations because I fished the bay for a pretty long time. I'm not exactly young anymore, and I've never seen better speckled trout fishing
right now
than the past 2 years, and it looks like it's just going to keep getting better. So the one thing I'll add, and this is and nobody asked, and I know we're signing off, but I just want to throw this one thing out there because it's really critical for people to understand it. So if everyone's wondering where your croaker and weakfish went, at the latest commission meeting, which was about 2 weeks ago, we got some data back. So a lot of our fish move in the winter, right? Like we don't really have croakers in the winter. We don't really have weakfish in the winter. We have resident striped bass, white perch, stuff, catfish, stuff like that, yellow perch. So data came back from the shrimp trawl fishery in North Carolina, which operates in Pamlico Sound. It's one of the few trawl fisheries allowed to operate in Pamlico Sound. And instead of playing this or that, we're going to play a game when I leave. Guess how many pounds of juvenile croaker, not spot or weakfish, they're in there too though. Guess how many pounds of juvenile croaker die as bycatch in the shrimp trawl fishery in North Carolina every year?
Oh, I think I saw you post this recently.
Yeah, it would be fine. I think I saw it too. It's an astronomical number if I remember correctly.
You had some charts, didn't you?
1.5 billion pounds.
Yeah.
And understand that these are fish that are average about 3 to 6 inches, so it takes 4 or 5 of them to equal a pound. So 1.5 billion pounds of croaker are shoveled into the mouths of sharks off the shrimp boats every year. And, I don't know about you guys, but I sure miss catching croaker and weakfish. And when you think about your habits, you guys are talking about redfish. I'll leave everyone with this thought. I swear to God, I won't talk anymore. But if you think about your habits as fishermen, what you spend your day doing, what do we have besides striped bass? Because 20 years ago, we would go out and guys, especially down by Solomon's by you, they would power troll for flounder, catch weakfish all the time, go out bottom fish for croaker, fish for stripers for a couple hours, but it was no big deal. It wasn't the focus of the day. And now what do you got? You got 24/7 stripers, all that effort, because we don't have croaker, we don't have weakfish, we don't have flounder. All of these things are gone from our fishery. So, when you find out that 1.5 billion pounds a year is shoveled off the deck of something dead for shrimp, 22% of the harvest, the shrimp harvest, is dead croaker. It's pretty shocking.
If I remember back, this is that 25 year ago window, going out with my father-in-law and sitting out Chinese mud, and we'd go out in the evening and fish into the early part of the the darkness.
Catch 16 to 20 inch croaker, knock your arm off, right?
It literally, you'd sit there and you'd go, if this fish got any bigger, I'm not getting it in the boat. And that was what we could get all excited about. It was like, yeah, it was rockfish season in the spring and in the fall, and you'd go out and you'd troll, which we've talked, Joey and I have talked about this before. It's like, who cares? But we'd go out and bottom fish for those croaker, and those 3, 4, sometimes 5 pound croaker just literally light you up. And I miss it. I miss it a lot. It's been so long, so long, and that's disheartening.
Well, it explains a lot about what's going on with stripers.
Yeah,
you have the effort shift. Think of the plight of the charter rates. They used to be able to run bottom trips and have fun, and they get their limit of stripers, boom, bang, go run a bottom trip. Everyone's happy. And now what do? They have to eke out all day to get a couple of keepers, striper fishing. And, the expectations are lowered, the baseline shift. And but the cool thing is we know what the bottleneck is now, right? We know why we're not seeing a lot of croaker, because you can't explain away 1.5 billion pounds.
No.
That's not. I mean, our annual striper harvest is 1 million pounds, right? Right. So like 1.5 billion.
Billion with a B.
Yeah,
man.
I just think. I guess the point is, guys, is like, understand that, to your listeners, just understand that there's people who deeply care about the resource and commit their time and their energy. And, it's not just a job, it's kind of what they live, and they want the best for everyone, right? They're not picking winners. They're not saying, well, these guys are okay, but I don't like these guys. They don't fish my way, or it's commercial count. There are people out there that are fighting for a healthy resource. And, the best thing you can do is read, bone up on our website on all these species and everything that's going on. And generally speaking, we're going to have a way for you to act as well. So don't forget about the PID in February, the public information document, and make sure and send your comments in, because striped bass are dependent on it.
Yep. And you want to toss your website out one more time? I'm looking at the live stream, and we've had a couple of people that the connection got kind of cut off when you give that. I'm going to put it in the show notes, but if you want to shout it out one more time here.
It's very simple. It's just saltwaterguidesassociation.org. And you can hop right into our blog, use the search bar, type in striped bass, everything's categorized, and you can basically read everything you ever want to know about striped bass,
awesome.
and where we are, where we're going, all that kind of fun stuff. So take the time, educate yourself, and hopefully we can all work together and bring this iconic species back.
Thank you, Tony. Thank you. Tony. Thank you for the hard work you're doing, and thank you for that effort. And if there's ever anything that we can do here, or anything that we can do through Chesapeake Angler, you got a magazine at your disposal to help get word out. So happy to help with that. Joey, we're going to shut this thing down. We're going to shut it down. We're going to shut it down quick. So anything going on in your world that you want to talk about? Yak anglers, we've put some stuff up there. That's good news. We're trying to make that Facebook group work.
Yeah.
Everybody over in the live stream, if you're hanging in there, man, so sorry about all the ups and downs and back and forth tonight.
Just listen to the audio.
Listen to the audio. Look for Maryland Fishing Line, marylandfishingline.com. You can subscribe to the audio feed, get it in your podcast feed, and that's going to be probably the best way to consume this content, because I think the live stream is going to be a bit of a shit show. If you're looking to get a hold of us, folks, facebook.com/Angler Magazine Chesapeake. On Instagram at Chesapeake Angler. You can find me. That's the magazine. You can find me at BN Range. Joey, how can they get in touch with you?
My paddle store is at Pack Paddles.
Got it. YouTube.com/Chesapeake Angler, where you can see a very jumpy live stream from tonight. And, of course, you can always read the e-magazine online at ChesapeakeAnglerMag.com. November issue is out, all distributed, all throughout Southern Maryland, Eastern Shore. Find it if you are so inclined. Hey, Tony, how can folks get in touch with you if they wanted to do so? Just through the website, probably the best bet?
Yeah, I think it's just info@saltwaterguidesassociation.org. If you have any questions, we'll be happy to answer.
Excellent. One more time, Tony, thank you very much.
Thank you.
And we are going to call it a night. Everybody, we will talk to you again next week. Love you. Bye.
Love you. Bye. Hold on, Tony, don't get off.
I'm going to end the live stream.
Okay.
Hang on. Don't end.